Can the Red Raider defense get back on track and live up to some of that offseason hype against Washington State on Saturday night? Or will they have a flashback to last Saturday against Abilene Christian? In today's video, I'll give you my 3 keys to the game for the Red Raiders to pull off a win up in the Pacific Northwest. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button. Those are the best 2 ways to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long, right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube, the most interactive, and the best part about it, it's 100% free. And speaking of interactive, well, I want to hear from you guys. What is the biggest key for Texas Tech to beat Washington State? And before somebody heads down to the comments and says, score more points, don't do that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. We don't need that. Be better. Seriously, what is the biggest key to the game for the Red Raiders to beat the Cougars up in Pullman? Let me know down below. All right. I'm going to start off with the first one. Call me Captain Obvious. Call me whatever you want. Communication on defense. Duh, right? It's got to be better. That has been the focal point of really all the content that I've seen from the Texas Tech space, as well as what coaches and players have said at news conferences out in the 806. Listen, to say the performance that the Red Raiders had against ACU defensively was awful is disrespectful to the word awful. It was beyond that. It was putrid. It was just absolutely flat out embarrassing. And the players will be the first ones to tell you that, as well as the coaches, right? But there were numerous times in the secondary when you go back and watch the film, you will see multiple guys in the secondary looking around like, what the hell are we doing, right? Like, what are we supposed to be doing here? And they're just lost. And what do? They get caught looking at the quarterback. And when they're in man, that's a disaster because you saw it multiple times on a wheel route where the miscommunication came into play. You saw it multiple times on slot and goes where there was no communication at all in the secondary. This is something that has to change. And you hear Tim DeRuyter discuss the fact that there were 6 new starters for the Red Raiders, and some of them were impacted by the fact that they were playing in front of 60,000 fans for the first time. I hate to break it to you, but that don't matter. No one's going to care about that. Nobody should care about that. That's part of being a D1 football player. You got to figure that out. And I get it. There's the human element of it where, hey, that's different for these guys, but they got to figure that out quick. And the easiest way to do that and feel more comfortable in that kind of environment is to properly communicate with your teammates. And that's the easiest way to fix this, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Texas Tech is going to go out there and beat Alabama against whoever the hell they played in week 1 and hold people to 0 points. I'm not saying that. I do think that Texas Tech can be the defense that they were last year and at times help you stay in a football game. I still think that defense is possibly there. I do think that ACU game will end up being their worst defensive performance of the year. That said, I could look foolish, but the easiest way for them to combat those miscues and just that awful performance moving forward is talking. And doing so in an effective manner and making sure that you are verbalizing what you're supposed to be doing in terms of, what your keywords are if you're those guys. You got to make sure that you know what's going on and making sure that you ensure you're in the proper place for the guy beside you. And, they're going to have to do quite a bit of that against Washington State because Washington State loves to throw the football much like ACU. I do think from a positive perspective, and hear me out on this, ACU is maybe a blessing in disguise for the Red Raiders in the sense of Washington State is going to do a lot of similar things as the Wildcats. Now, granted, Washington State has a lot more talent than ACU, at least on paper, right? But they're going to do a lot of similar things, Mike Leach coaching tree type stuff, right? Like that's what's going to happen. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that they got to see something similar before they went on the road and they kind of got humbled a little bit. But again, communication is the biggest factor for the Red Raiders defense moving forward. All right, going to switch to the offense for the last 2 here, and we'll go to the offensive line. Simply put, as I think about how I want to say this properly, I thought the offensive line was actually pretty damn good at pass blocking. Go back and watch it. I thought they were pretty good. That being said, I don't think they were very good at all in run blocking. And that is kind of a 180 on what I thought that they would actually be coming into the year. You go back and look at the big-time runs Taj Brooks had. Yeah, the offensive line was blocking, but it was more so that Taj Brooks didn't have a hole, so he had to feel like he had to cut back and counter, and ACU just didn't contain on the outside, and Taj inevitably made some big plays because, well, he's Taj freaking Brooks, right? So that's something I'm looking at because, again, we don't know if Taj will play against Washington State. That is a game-time decision, according to the head man, Joey McGuire, in terms of if Taj Brooks will actually play in Pullman due to an arm injury he sustained against the Wildcats during the home opener. Regardless of who the running back is for Texas Tech, obviously you want it to be Taj Brooks because he impacts winning at a higher level than his backups. Regardless, though, if it's Cameron Valdez, Cam Dickey, Jacoby Williams, the true freshman in Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams, because they were both mentioned by Joey McGuire as if Taj does not play, those two guys could potentially get a significant increase in snap, and Jacoby Williams could actually get a few in terms of maybe 7, 8 type snaps for the Red Raiders. Regardless of who's back there, though, back to my point here, they have to do better at creating lanes for the running backs between the tackles. Simple and plain. That's what's got to happen because you can only count on your guys to bounce out and make a play for you if you're the offensive line in the run game so many times. Listen, Taj Brooks is special. I get it. He's arguably a top 3 at worst running back in college football, in my opinion. But you've got to create lanes between the tackles because teams will not take you seriously in the run game. And if that happens, they're going to drop guys back into coverage. And then it becomes a lot more difficult for Baron Morton to get the ball out quickly and in space to those, well, really good playmakers that Texas Tech has now on the outside. All right, one more time before I get into my final key to the game. And this is more of one where I think it would be super beneficial for the Red Raiders to do so. Be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and let me know once again, what is your biggest key for Texas Tech to beat Washington State up in Pullman? Again, if you say score more points, don't be that guy. Have a self-reflection moment here in the mirror. Be real about it. What is your biggest key for the Red Raiders to beat the Cougars up in Pullman? All right, play action passing game. That's where I want to go to because I truly believe if Texas Tech used more play action passing in their offense, they could be a top 10 offense nationally. And maybe I'm overreacting here, but you have a top 5 running back, top 3 running back, in my opinion, in college football, being conservative on the 5 there, an upgraded playmaker group that includes, the likes of Josh Kelly, Jalen Conyers, Caleb Payday Douglas, Coy Aiken, Dre McCray, Micah Hudson, John Carlos Miller III, Mason Tharp, so on and so forth, right? Like you feel good about your playmakers now. You use this to put defenses on their heels. The play-action passing game allows you to do not only good things in the passing game, but also what we were just talking about in the running game. It makes it easier for your offensive line because teams will be on their heels. That allows offensive lines to create leverage and, in theory, create bigger holes in between the tackles for running backs to run through. That's in theory. But the reason I think this play-action passing game could be so beneficial for the Red Raiders is I'll give you one guess as who's the primary guy defensive coordinators playing Texas Tech are focusing on. Give you one guess. It's always his time out in the 806. That's all I'm going to say, okay? It's Taj Brooks, obviously. So if you use the play-action passing game, that will open things up and make it easier in man-to-man, even zone coverages for Baron Morton to get the ball to guys in space. And we know what we saw in week number 1, and I expect to continue moving forward with these playmakers. Josh Kelly's a bona fide stud. Caleb Payday Douglas hasn't taken the top off the defense yet, but I promise he will a couple times this year. You'll also see more of Micah Hudson in week 2, Coy Aiken, Jalen Conyers, Mason Tharp. Again, these names that I've already mentioned, you can get them into more space, which allows them to create bigger chunk plays and makes it more difficult for teams to keep up with Texas Tech. Even if the defense isn't where you want it to be, if Texas Tech is having more space, it's easier throws for Baron Morton, and easier throws for Baron Morton typically produce more points for Texas Tech. That's just how it works. So I want to see more play action, and I truly believe it will be unleashed in week number 2 against Washington State, a team that, again, this isn't going to sound like a crazy number after what Texas Tech did. I get it. But they gave up 30 points to Portland State. Portland State's not a good football team, people, right? So now you come in with all these playmakers if you're Texas Tech, and how can you combat the fact that, hey, Washington State's going to throw some different looks at you? How can we make Washington State uncomfortable? The play action passing game is a good place to start, in my opinion. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Those are my 3 keys to the game for the Red Raiders to move on to 2-0 in the 2024 season, albeit I know the 1-0 wasn't pretty, but damn it, it's better than 0-1. Tell you that right now. If you want to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football and men's basketball all year long, we're doing watch parties, live streams, Q&As. We're giving you daily videos, whether that's previews, keys to the game, breaking news, and so much more. Join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube by liking the video, hitting that subscribe button. And I'm telling you, people, the best part about it, the best part about the Back to 12 podcast, it's 100% free.